Hello everyone, here is a mini screencast covering the graphic literacy matters. And I want you to start to kind of think about the different types of literacy and how they connect to healthcare. And this article pulls together health literacy and graphic literacy and numerical literacy. So kind of some key things that I want you to kind of focus on as you go through and read through this particular manuscript. First, I want you to put together the connection between health information and how it relates to numbers. And not just numbers, but graphical numbers. We also want to take a look at how certain educational levels, like the numerical health information, can be presented in numbers of graphics. And graphics tend to be that visual element, okay? So graphic display formats such as a pie chart, gives great ways for percentages, plots, icons, pictures. For example, Spectrum Health does a great job of it right now with COVID, and they have all of the pictures who are people who are vaccinated and both people who are unvaccinated, and how many people are actually in a certain unit. So, at any rate, so the display formats can also lead people to overestimate low probabilities and underestimate high probabilities. So those are the kind of things that you kind of think about as you're looking at graphical representation. In addition to that, I'm going to scroll down here. Graphic literacy, what's the concept of it? Graphic literacy requires the ability to extract information from two-dimensional images, to read data, and to compare the information. That's graphic displays may not benefit everybody. You have to take into account the visual learner, some people, or the type of learner. So you're looking at a universal design element of learning between health literacy and graphic literacy. Now that's just a little bit I'm adding to this particular article, as I think it really hits the message home. Additionally, graphic literacy and numeracy were correlated within this. So I want you, as you think about that, what does that mean? Okay? And again, think about how you look at graphs and how you look at literacy and its connection to it. Okay? Now, as we go through the semester, you're going to find that there are a number of ways to measure or provide a checklist or a survey that addresses either graphic literacy, visual literacy, health literacy, food literacy. I could go on for days. But for this particular article, what did they use? Okay, and then I want you to think about what kind of elements would you pull out of that particular measure. Okay, and that brings me to, I'm going to scroll down here. And they used Qualtrics, which is good. And take a look at how they did the survey structure. They wanted to check out health literacy first. So what was the knowledge base of health literacy? Then graphic literacy. And then what was the kind of this, I like how they use subjective numeracy when it actually could be subjective literacy. And notice they did a comprehension section. They didn't have any, they decided not to add any questions to that, which I thought was interesting. But they did add subsections. What those subsections are, I can't remember, but I'm going to go through it with you anyway. So in conjunction or in connection with health literacy, the study measured using the choose one item scale. How confident are you in filling out medical forms by yourself? Okay. Even some of the most educated people are like, well, what does this mean? Or it could be a medical term that you don't even know. Okay, and oftentimes that's what happens, is that there's a medical term out there that we don't know. Well, what does this mean? Okay, so taking a look at that. And I like what they put here. Quite a bit were assigned to adequate health literacy groups. What does an adequate group look like? Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. I also like the fact that they used a summative scale. You know, summative is what's the sum of, right? That's how you break down the word. But going on to that, they used graphic literacy scale. The graphic literacy scale asked participants to interpret 4 different graphs. 4 different graphs. There's a file connected to this. I don't know if I click on here. Nope, though it's not here. Sorry about that. But now, believe it or not, on the CHES exam, the same thing happens here. So if you can read the chart, read the graph, and you can interpret the data on the graph, then you have a relatively good graphic literacy scale. Okay. Moreover, I'm going to go down to right about here, and this is what's important. Okay, health literacy and sociodemographic characteristics. Okay, this is kind of what I want you to kind of pull away from. What was interesting was that there's no statistically significant relationship between health literacy and gender. That's a good thing, because that means male and female both have an equal footing with regards to health literacy, right? So going down here, though, you'll see that they had, I'm not really a fan of dichotomized questions, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's true, false, right? But I give you true, false questions here. But anyway, what was interesting here was not statistically significant. Having a family history of cancer or higher education was not statistically significant. Okay. And if I go down here, you're going to see how they actually mapped out the survey and how they pulled everything together. I'm going to go down to the conclusions. This is the demographic participant stuff. This is kind of stuff you probably want to have in your projects, but going down here, I love odd ratios. They're so cool. That's beside the point. The discussion. Okay. The study found a positive relationship between graphic literacy and numeracy. Okay. They found a positive relationship. That's a good thing. Okay. Only graphic literacy was significantly associated with the total graph comprehension score. Okay. I want you to think about that as you think about how you represent information out into the field. Okay. As always, look at the limitations, because that helps build other studies. Okay. I like what they had here. Most study limitations were related to the nature of the online survey data collected. So one of the things, maybe I missed it going through this again, and if I did, whatever, but it's often best to test out and do a focus group before you submit or send out a survey. Most people don't do that, but they should. It helps with getting at least a reliable instrument, maybe even a valid instrument. More than likely not, but okay, so I'm going to go down here. And I think it's important for you to kind of note this right here because of the scales. Okay. NIAC studies of graphic literacy is a highly educated sample of prostate cancer patients assessed graphically using a different type of scale. And what they found were correlated to lower numeracy and lower graphic literacy. Okay. That's interesting, right? So going on to that, I want you to kind of focus on the implications. Think about the context of what you're doing in a project, or maybe in a topic in which you're hoping to advocate. How would you represent that and ensure that the graphic literacy is there? And the other thing that you noticed here, which I love, is this right here. Different representation of information. Okay, different representation of information. Okay, that pretty much sums up this article. Happy reading.